Yeah. Hey, hey,
Wow, it is 9 a.m. and you know what that means. The return of the 110 Nation Morning Show. I'm your host, Mr. CJ Sports. You can follow me at CJ Sports 1. You can follow the 110 Nation at 110 Nation. Glad to be here on this Monday morning, officially kicking off the 2016 year for the 110 Nation. Brought back the morning show, getting things situated so we could do this. We honestly could have waited one more week, and the main reason we had done away with the morning show for a little while was with the way our house is set up now. It just you had people getting up, and at the night show everybody's going to bed, so everybody's being quiet. But in the morning, it's not the same thing, and we move this week, and officially be out of this place by the end of this weekend. And that setup has everybody at the other end of the house and the studio at a different end of the house, so I won't have to worry about everybody trying to keep everybody quiet while we do this. So we actually could have waited another week, but we wanted to kick it off, and we wanted to start off the year on the right foot, and so we decided to go ahead and bring you guys the 110 Nation Morning Show. Make sure you guys check out our site, www.the110nation.com. Check out our blog site, www.the110nationsports.com. For all the latest going on here at the 110 Nation, Black Monday, as they call it. A lot of great games yesterday. Playoff picture has been set. You had the Jets. All you had to do was beat the Buffalo Bills. And a 7-8 Buffalo Bills team is all you had to beat. Steelers did you a favor. They lost last week. To put you in this predicament. You beat the New England Patriots regardless if it was Bill Belichick allowing the Jets to win so the Steelers weren't in the playoffs or not. Go into this week, you knew the Steelers were going to win. They're playing the Cleveland Browns. And me being a long-time Cleveland Browns fan, I knew the outcome of this game. Judge, you put yourself in a predicament. You beat the Patriots in overtime. You had control of your own destiny. You beat Buffalo, a 7-8 team, while you sit 10-5, and you're in. Did I mention it was a Rex Ryan-led Buffalo Bills team? Even with Rex Ryan leaving the New York Jets and coaching the Buffalo Bills, he still found a way to ruin the New York Jets season. As the Buffalo Bills were able to beat the New York Jets 22-17, dropping the Jets to a 10-6 record, which was still not good enough to be in the playoffs this year. Jets are going to be sitting home. The Steelers going to be in. Which, in all actuality, let's call an ace and a spade here for a second. The Steelers were the better of the two teams. The 6 best teams in the AFC are in the playoffs. The Patriots, the Bengals, the Broncos, the Houston, well, maybe not the 6 best teams. Houston's better than they were. Once upon a time, what do we have, 2-4, 2-5 teams or whatever in the South? So to have Houston finish above 500, I can live with it. I maybe wouldn't say necessarily the best team. Yeah, if the Jets would have been in instead of the Houston Texans, maybe that's, would have gave us the six best teams. I mean, granted that the Houston Texans played six of probably the easiest games they possibly could have played. Not odds, hurricane quarterback situation. Brian Hoyer led them to the playoffs. Indianapolis was still 8-8. Tennessee in their division, worst team of the NFL. Again, well, they were second worst last year. Now they're the worst. You go out and draft. You waste a draft pick. You waste a number 2 draft pick on Marcus Mariota, who never did anything in college football other than won the Heisman Trophy. Big freaking whip to do. I have no respect for the Heisman Trophy award. College is not balanced enough to have an award for the best player. Just like Derrick Henry wins it again. Derrick Henry wins it this year out of Alabama, even though he probably wasn't the best player in college football. But because of national coverage, because of schedules, because of all the scenarios that play out, it's why, to me, the Heisman Trophy is just a waste of time. Cleveland, the second worst record, get the number 2 pick and the 32 pick. We're going to watch Cleveland screw it up. They fired another GM, fired another coach. Sure, all the quarterbacks are going to be out once again. Manziel's made it perfectly clear he wants to go play for Dallas. So more than likely, Manziel will end up on the only team that other than Cleveland that actually talked about wanting him. But Cleveland was the only one dumb enough to give up some draft picks or to move up so they could get him when nobody else wanted him, because Dallas was the only other team that wanted him, and they done went another direction. But have a little bit more respect for Houston. I mean, at least they finished 9-7 and finished above 500. Finished on a 3-game win streak. Even more respect when you watch the entire sideline clear out just to show their respects for the injured player yesterday. I thought that was true sportsmanship. You didn't get that in the Dallas game, as they were doing the wave and everything else while Washington had a player down. Houston, their entire sideline clears out to support offensive lineman Dwayne Brown. I thought that was really cool. Broncos get the number 1 seed. Yes, Broncos, number 1 seed. After it was all said and done, not only did the Broncos end up with the number 1 seed, Peyton Manning led the Broncos. Yes, Mr. HGH, you taste so good. HGH, you taste so good. As more and more reports come out about that, I don't care. I mean, other than the fact that I really just don't care. It wasn't banned back then. What makes a difference? Why is this even a topic? I guarantee, because it was not tested, there was many football players. You think all of a sudden players just got bigger and faster for no reason? You think generations just changed and all of a sudden athletes are so freakishly fast and big that they never once were before? I mean, what do you think honestly changed over the last 20 years or so that players all of a sudden are freak of natures? I mean, honestly, that's why we're having so many concussions and everything else. They're hitting harder. They're running faster. They're taking stuff that they weren't taking before. It wasn't banned, so what makes a difference? Honestly, I wish they just dropped the stupid conversation. Now, maybe in baseball or anybody else that took it, that it was banned in their sport, okay, I can see it. It wasn't banned in the NFL. It wasn't until, what, last year? This year? So just drop it. Broncos get the number 1 seed. Not that Osweiler was doing a bad job. I mean, it was 2-1. No, that was AJ McCarron. I take that back. He's doing a little bit better than that, though. Yeah, they was having a rough game. They were still in it. I mean, it was 14-13 or 7-6 or something at the time that they pulled Brock. At least they know what they got. At least they know, when it's time to finally pull the plug on the Peyton Manning ordeal that they will not win a Super Bowl with. At least they know they have a quarterback. Patriots, all you had to do was win. You had the number one seed. Everybody had to go through you. I mean, that's quite simple. All you had to do was beat the Miami Dolphins. And everybody went through you. You couldn't beat the Miami Dolphins. That's rather shocking to me. That you could not beat 20-10. How are you not able? You're in the playoffs. You going into this game, you are the number one seed. All you had to do was beat a 5-10 Miami Dolphin team. All you had to do. I mean, you were 12-2 2 weeks ago, and all you had to do was beat the Jets and the Dolphins. All you do is beat one of the teams, and you'd have been good. That's why all that rumor about that the New England Patriots lost that game on purpose to keep the Steelers out. That's the only part that kind of blows that whole story out the water, because that put them in a situation that they had to beat Miami in order to keep the number one spot, and they were unable to do that. I find it hard to believe that they did not, that they decided that, we're going to intentionally lose this game. We're going to give the Jets the ball in overtime. And so we intentionally lost this game so that we could possibly lose the number one seed and control of the number one seed and lose home field advantage throughout. I just don't see that being the scenario. I mean, don't get me wrong. I could be wrong. That could have been exactly what happened. I don't know why they would. The Patriots have your number 2 seed. Bengals fall to the number 3 seed. Impressed. AJ McCarron went 2 for 1. They ended up winning their game Sunday. I think this is a very interesting matchup. I can't wait until next Saturday night at 8:30. The Bengals versus the Steelers. If this rivalry wasn't already interesting enough, if the attitude, the chippery, everything between these two teams wasn't already entertaining enough, I guarantee next Saturday night, 8:30, I already had it marked. I saw it last night. I was like, oh God, this is going to be a fun game to watch. The other game, the other AFC game, not so interesting, and we're going to talk about that in a second. But this game right here, the Bengals versus the Steelers, Bengals are not going to win. Bengals are going to go another year without winning a play. It may never happen. The Cincinnati Bengals may never win a playoff game under Marvin Lewis. Just may never happen. Even though the Steelers lost last week to the Baltimore Ravens, the Steelers to me was the team in the AFC that is scary, that could find themselves in the playoffs and really do some upsetting. And here we are. The Steelers found a way in. And now they are, as we got an interruption going on here at the studio. I don't know who's beating on my door, but we have an interruption. We gotta take a commercial break.
Hey, yeah, yeah. Hey, hey, hey.
Wanna be on the team, taking up my only push coops clean, knocking bumpers, bringing crowds to their knees. With these suckers, you know you can't see me. Stevie Wonder, talking about we finna go hard. We finna go hard. We finna go hard. We finna go hard. I believe in dreams, that's why I started rapping.
There we go. We got it all figured out now. Sorry about the interruption. That's the only thing bad about live TV. You just never know what is going to happen. But told you all we're moving, and that was kind of why we were supposed to be waiting. That's the exact reason right here why I was going to wait until next week. But everybody want to verify when everything's going to happen. So that's what all that was about. So, but anyway, let's get back to our talk. I hate when I'm interrupted in my show. Steelers were, I said it, that was one of the teams that if they got in, I would fear, and they're in. And Bengals now have an issue. Bengals now will have to dream about winning a playoff game. Then we got in the other scenario here. Oh, the other seed. Houston Texans find themselves at the 4th seed. I don't know, we're playing the Kansas City Chiefs. A Chiefs team that I don't quite understand. You couldn't win no games with Jamal Charles. I mean, you were, 1-5 with Jamal Charles. Lost 5 straight. Jamal Charles goes down, and all of a sudden you win 10 straight games. 10 straight. To go 11-5. This game's got no interest for me. I'm sorry. I know there's Houston fans listening to the show. I know there's Kansas City fans listening to the show. And honestly, I think Kansas City will win this game. But there's nothing that says, hey, Mr. CJ Sports, you need to watch this game. I just don't have no interest at all in this game, which now is going to give you a Denver Bronco, and this is going to be fun. Denver Bronco. If the Steelers win, the Chiefs win, like I think they will. You're going to have the Broncos versus the Steelers. I remember how that. I'm sure they still remember Tim Tebow. The Steelers do, but you're going to have Broncos versus Steelers, and then you're going to have Patriots versus Chiefs. I ought to make maybe not so much the Patriots and Chiefs game, but at least that Broncos Steelers game. Broncos Steelers game. Then out the NFC. Panthers going to this weekend 14-1. Cardinals 13-2. Cardinals win, they hold home field advantage throughout with the Panthers loss. But if Panthers win or Cardinals loss, then the Panthers control home field throughout. Cardinals, I don't know what just happened. other than I know that you got the brakes beat off of you 36-6 by the Seattle Seahawks. That is the only thing. I don't know if there was a lack of try because they honestly didn't believe that the Panthers would lose. I don't know at all. All I know is Seattle Seahawks found a way to beat the brakes off the Cardinals. Panthers, of course, was victorious over Tampa Bay, controls everything. First round, or home field advantage, get the bye, 15-1 for the season. Third seed, or the Cardinals, of course, Cardinals get the second seed. The third seed I thought was interesting because it came down to the Packers and Minnesota. Honestly, I would have said Packers all day long. Third seed, take the division of the NFC North. Yeah, that's not what happened last night. The Vikings were able to be victorious over the Green Bay Packers, 20-13, to give themselves the NFC North and give them the third seed. I don't know what the reward was. If you lost, if you won, you're the third seed, and you have to play the Seattle Seahawks. If you lose, you become the fifth seed, and you play the Washington Redskins. Excuse me. So you win, you get home field, and you play the Seahawks. You lose, you go on the road to play Washington. I think, I'm not going to say there's conspiracy theories out there, and the Green Bay Packers intentionally lost, but at the same time, I would not fault the Green Bay Packers if that's what they did. I mean, I would much rather play the Washington Redskins, even though Washington has been on a pretty hot streak themselves, and they finished 9-7. Hell, they were beating the crap out of it. Was 24-0 early in the game against Dallas, and the only reason that game even became close for the Washington Redskins is they quickly went ahead and said, you know what? We're going to go ahead and rest our starters. We're not taking any more chances. But I think that if the Packers did do that, I would think that was a much wiser move than having to play the Seattle Seahawks. Vikings win the North, third seed. They will play a 6th seed Seattle Seahawks team who end up being victorious over the Cardinals, finishing 10-6. Washington, of course, with their win, well, it didn't really matter if they won or lost. They were going to be the 4th seed regardless. Have a little more respect for a 9-7 Washington Redskins team than what would have been 8-8. I'm sorry, I'm still stuck on. I want above 500 teams in the playoffs, and I find that interesting because I know all season long we honestly thought we was going to have two divisions that were going to have it below 500. The AFC South, where we watched Houston and Indianapolis, and they were well below 500. And then the NFC East with Washington Redskins, where most of the season, all the teams were below 500 there as well. And I think a lot of people at that point honestly figured, you know what, we're just going to have two below 500 teams, not to end up with two above 9-7 or above 500 teams with 9-7 records. I have a little bit more respect for the playoffs this year. I'm sorry, last year's playoffs when you allowed a 7-8-1 Carolina Panther team into the playoffs, to me was a joke. You kind of watered down the best product you can. Just as bad as knowing the University of Minnesota was in a bowl game with a 5-7 record. To me, you don't reward people. First of all, you don't reward teams or schools if they came and win 50% of the games. But then on top of that, I feel you got to be above. You need to win like 75% or something. 8-4 record in college football, and NFL's not quite the same. As long as you're above 500, I'm at least happy because you're playing the best of the best. It's not a watered down system where you're playing colleges that you never heard of, and colleges you're just trying to let them get TV time. It's the NFL, and as long as you are above 500, I'm not gonna say 500. at least a 500 is more respectable. An 8-8 record would have been more respectable than the 7-8-1 Carolina Panthers and the 7-9 Seattle Seahawks when they did it a few years back. But I want at least a 9-7. I want to be rewarded for at least winning more games than you lost. Seattle gets the 6th seed. They will be playing the Minnesota Vikings, like I said. Teddy Bridgewater is going to be picked apart. I think the Legion of Doom is overhyped. I think Richard Sherman as a cornerback is nowhere close to being a shutdown cornerback. It's really a joke. This is even a conversation. And it's nothing. It's not a shot at Richard Sherman. They play great defense as a unit. But to say you are individually the best of any position on that Seattle Seahawks defense is a joke. They have a real good scheme, and it works for them. I applaud them. But there's no single person on that team that holds a single position, but maybe the safeties, and they are impressive. And they pick up a lot of slack for the cornerbacks, such as Richard Sherman. But with that being said, Teddy Bridgewater is never going to lead a team to the Super Bowl. Just never going to happen. Adrian Peterson, and this is about the most you're going to hear me talk about Adrian Peterson all year long. I'm sorry, I just don't believe promoting somebody in the league that beats the crap out of their kids. But he cannot will them into the Super Bowl. No matter how good of a running back he may or may not be, you can't. It's not going to happen. Redskins, Green Bay. I'm not interested to see if the Green Bay Packers can beat the Washington Redskins. I don't think that's even really a question. It's more or less how bad are the Green Bay Packers going to beat the Washington Redskins, which makes therefore the next round interesting, because then that lines up the Carolina Panthers. And see, this is right here, what I'm talking about right here. I've talked the talk for many weeks now. Arizona, number 1 team. I had Seattle, the number 2 team, and I had Carolina Panthers, the number 3 team out of the NFC. And I've preached for weeks that there's no doubt in my mind if Carolina played Arizona right now, Arizona would win. Just like if I feel that if Carolina, especially when they're undefeated, everybody talking about, Carolina undefeated this, undefeated that. We only played 1 team above 500. Big whoop-de-doo. What about Seattle? Well, that Seattle team was still... They were still trying to get their defense situated. Russell Wilson was not playing to the level that they're playing now. Much different Seattle Seahawks team. That I believe if Seattle played Carolina right now, that Seattle would win. Well, they played in Seattle. I don't care what happened back when Carolina beat Seattle. And that's what makes this interesting, because now you're going to have Carolina play Seattle, and you're going to have Arizona play Green Bay. And if if Carolina was able to beat Green Bay, then they would play Arizona the way my brackets playing out. And so Carolina would have to either prove me right or prove me wrong. Either they would have to beat both Seattle and Arizona in order to get to the playoffs or get to the Super Bowl, or more than likely, which I think is going to happen, they're going to lose to Seattle in the first game. I think Carolina's a one and done. They might have had this season where they made a 14-0 run and they finished 15-1, but that's a lot to do with their schedule. There's no doubt in my mind that they're not beating the Seattle Seahawks team. They are not making a Super Bowl run. But that's your NFC and that's your AFC picture. Interesting season. I picked from the get-go, going into the season, that it would be the Arizona Cardinals and the New England Patriots in the Super Bowl. Both number 2 seed teams to finish this season. both teams, I still feel, are going to be in the Super Bowl. I'm hoping that my prediction was right going into the season. We will soon see. I think that in the AFC that Steelers and the Bengals game will be the best first round game to watch. I think the Minnesota-Seattle game will be fun. I think the Houston-Kansas City will probably be a lopsided game, and I think the Green Bay-Redskin game. And it's a shame because not so much the Houston. I just don't think Houston's ready yet. I think that they found something, and I think they can build off of it. And I say the same thing for Washington, but I think Washington's opponent's even harder for them versus Houston and Kansas City. I'm sorry, but I have a lot more respect for Aaron Rodgers than I do for Alex Smith. Not that I'm trying to put Alex Smith down. He's a great game manager. They won 10 games straight without 33% of their productivity on offense. They're the highest in the NFL with Jamal Charles being down. Things could get interesting. I mean, if my bracket plays out and you got the Panthers, Seattle, Arizona, and the Packers, you get Pittsburgh and Denver, Broncos or Pittsburgh and it don't even matter. I don't even know who I would feel would win. We'd have to wait to see how things play out at that point. But the Patriots either had to play the Broncos or the Steelers to get to the Super Bowl. I mean, how could we possibly have a Tom Brady, Peyton Manning showdown one more time before Peyton Manning is done? The Battle of the Birds in the NFC. Could we really have the Cardinals in Seattle? I mean, the playoff picture looks to be a pretty interesting thing. I like how things are looking. This could be a fun season after all in the NFL. Like I said, Minnesota went 20-13, puts themselves as the NFC North champs. Denver ended up being victorious over San Diego, 27-20. Carolina won over Tampa Bay. I don't want to run through this course. You guys know who played who and what happened yesterday. Carolina, their win came over the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, 38-10. San Francisco and St. Louis had them a fun game, 19-16 in overtime, and San Francisco won to give San Francisco opportunity to finish this season 5-11, took St. Louis to a 7-9 record. Seattle, their win was over Arizona, 36-6. Kansas City, 10th straight win. That win came over Oakland. It was a very good game, 23-17. Like I said, Dallas, they were up 24-0 early in this game and started benching their players. They ended up holding on to win 34-23 over Dallas. Pittsburgh, like I said, they won. They were in. Well, the Jets lost, and we knew they were going to beat Cleveland. Cleveland kept it competitively close early in the game. It didn't get out of hand until the latter part of the game. And Steelers ended up winning 28-12. Cincinnati, to put themselves in the number 2 seed, or number 3 seed, they were victorious over the Baltimore Ravens 24-16. Really not a shocker with all the quarterback issues and Steven Smith Sr. being gone. Chicago, Detroit, both of them tied 6-9 going into this game. Winner gets to finish 7-9. Loser gets to finish at the bottom of the NFC North. And Chicago, you lose. Detroit victorious 24-20. Jets, like I said, all they had to do was beat the Buffalo Bills. That's all you had to do. Buffalo, it was nothing but a 7-8 team going in. They could have finished below 500. Jets could have been in the playoffs. And yet, once again, Rex Ryan ruins another Jets season, and Buffalo wins 22-17. Saints in Atlanta. Atlanta had an opportunity to finish 9-7, have a little bit more of a respectful season. Yet they lose to the Saints 20-17. Saints finished 7-9. Atlanta finished 8-8. What a difference! I mean, the Falcons were so hot to start off the season. Started off 5-0, 6-0, something like that. Saints started off rough. The second half of the season was much better for them. A lot of rumors whether or not Sean Payton's going to be there or not. There's a good chance he'll make a return. Yeah, they didn't make the playoffs the last 2 years, but I mean, he's a Super Bowl winning coach. And I know you only write off that so long as look, they're talking about Tom Coughlin going ahead and retire today so they don't have to fire him. Even though he beat the New England Patriots twice and won 2 Super Bowls, even it looks like the Giants have come to their end with their head coach. Speaking of which, Philadelphia Eagles, to make things worse, Philadelphia Eagles end up beating the New York Giants 35-30 to finish their season of 7-9, make the Giants finish 6-10. Dallas Cowboys with that loss, they finished 4-12. Interesting stat that they've been throwing out there all day yesterday. The fact that the Alabama Crimson Tide have won more games at Dallas Stadium this year than the Dallas Cowboys, as Dallas went 1-7 at home, while Alabama went 2-0 in college play. Two teams I really don't care for, and I thought it was funny that they had an opportunity to poke at Dallas with that. Like I said, Miami was victorious over the New England Patriots 20-10. Houston locked up their opportunity to be in the playoffs and take the AFC South with their win over Jacksonville 30-6. If not, Indianapolis could have took it. They were victorious over Tennessee. Make their record 8-8 and would have held a tiebreaker, but Houston did what they had to do. With that win over Tennessee, of course, that gave Tennessee the number 1 draft pick next year, with the worst record of 3-13, and had, I guess you want to call it a tiebreaker, as Cleveland was 3-13 as well. Like I said, Cleveland will own the 2nd and 32nd pick. But coach gone, GM gone, no more Farmer, no more Mike Petink, and probably no more quarterback. We'll probably draft another quarterback. We'll probably ruin another quarterback's career, and we'll probably have another crappy season. I mean, that's just the Cleveland Brown way. You kind of get used to it. You never get your hopes up for it. Never. Oh, goodness. Some things never just change. Black Monday is what they call it. And a lot of coaches didn't even make it to Monday. I mean, Chip Kelly already gone. Cleveland Browns fired theirs. He's already done. Niners head coach Jim Tomsula gone, and I'm sure we're going to see many more today. These are the coaches. These get to Friday or Black Monday, but there's a lot of you always got to hate spam, and I don't know if y'all got to hear the music I got to hear in my ear because of that. But Monday's going to make for an interesting day for the coaches that. Like I said, Sean Payton's on the chopping block. Tennessee coach, once upon a time, was looking to be let release, but who knows on that. Chuck Picano's future is uncertain. Tom Coughlin's future is uncertain, and of course, the rest of these coaches, I'm sure will more than likely have an opportunity to talk about tomorrow. On tomorrow morning's show on who still has a job and who doesn't, but I can almost guarantee you we're going to have a few more teams out there that are going to be looking for coaches or GMs or something to that nature. I have that feeling that is going to be the case here. Um, Jimmy Butler, Chicago Bulls, sets a halftime record. Chicago Bulls, yes, took Michael Jordan out of the record book for the Chicago Bulls by putting up 40 points and a half. Michael Jordan previously held the record with 39. With 39 points and a half. A really big deal made of this. To me, for no reason. And the reason I say that, not to try to take anything away from Jimmy Butler's half a game, but one, it was half a game. Yes, he put up phenomenal stats. And had high percentage shooting. I know he was 1 for 4 in the first half. But the second half, he was like 14 to 19 from the field, like 10 of 11 from the free throw line, and 2 or 3 or something like that from downtown. Crazy stats. Not only for the half, but also just for the entire game. But he scored 2 points in the first half, a measly 42 points. And I say measly, but I just know that there is such a big deal about him scoring 40 points and a half and taking down a record for Michael Jordan from the Chicago Bulls record anyway. Because he scored 49 and Jordan only did 39 and Butler did 40. But when we talk about records, when we talk about things like this, need to take in consideration of the whole game. I hate when we got people that focus on Butler scores 40 points and a half. A new Chicago Bulls record. He took down the all-time greats record once was held by the Chicago Bulls with 39. Okay, well then when you hear this headline or you read this headline, you're expecting a Kobe Bryant type of performance at 81 points. Or even 60 points, a Michael Jordan kind of performance. He scored 40 points and a half. He scored 42 points for the whole game. So you tell me we're making a big deal because he didn't show up for half a game and played phenomenally well in the second half of the game. I hate it when stats like that and things are blown up to a proportion like that, when honestly it's really meaningless, because you look at the big picture. He scored 42 points. He had a very high shooting percentage kind of night. I give him that. But he scored 42 points. Quit media, any NBA. Quit trying to make a big deal about somebody scoring 40 points and a half when they only scored 42 points for the entire game. You shot 1 of 4. You weren't shooting much. You weren't exonerating a bunch of energy. Should we make a big deal and applaud everybody that has half a game crappy and a half a game good? I mean, honestly, we can sit there and break down a bunch of people's games and make a big deal about a lot of people's half a games. But instead, we focused on the big picture. I mean, we can sit there and focus on the fact that LeBron has the most points in the fourth quarter. And focus on how people don't think he's clutch, but obviously he's got to be one of the most clutch players if he's scoring the most in the fourth quarter. When it's go time, he's taking care of business. But we don't. We focus on what needs to be fixed for the Cleveland Cavaliers. We focus on the fact that he's the worst three-point shooter at it right now. This is his worst season. There's a lot of things that we focus on versus focusing on what he does in the fourth quarter. I mean, ESPN, especially ESPN, is really bad for stuff like that. Like, it is horrible. Well, we know the best player to have the most completed passes when the temperature is 35 degrees, there's only 2 clouds in the sky, the wind is blowing northeast in the NFL. I mean, the ESPN will break down some ridiculous stats and give you some pointless facts that really means nothing to anybody. I hate sitting there trying to watch ESPN or SportsCenter because they will break down almost anything and everything, and they constantly do it. Ain't nobody care if a certain basketball player scores a certain amount of points when there's a checkered like a look to a basketball court or a court with throwback jerseys or I mean, they will break down everything and anything, and it is beyond ridiculous. I absolutely positively hate it. And as good as it was for Jimmy Butler to score 40 points and a half and be able to turn his game around, I mean, honestly, who really cares? He scored 42 points. It was nothing that was out of it's a 42-point performance. It was nothing that big of a deal. Goodness. So glad that we're playoff time. I applaud. I applaud the NFL because of the way they did this schedule to know so many games in week 17. I think there was like 10 games that still dictated or determined positions in the NFL playoffs. I mean, Minnesota, Green Bay, that determined who was going to have the North and who was going to be a wild card. Denver and San Diego. Denver ended up being the number 1 seed. Their seed was still on the line on what seed they were going to be. Carolina and Tampa Bay as well. Carolina, if they would have lost it and Arizona would have won, Arizona would have been your number 1 seed. St. Louis and San Francisco, no, nothing at all. The Seattle and Arizona game, still determined. Because like I said, an Arizona win and a Carolina loss would have put Arizona at the top seed. Oakland and Kansas City. Kansas City wins, Denver loses, Kansas City wins the AFC West. Even though Kansas City won, Denver won, didn't make a difference, but that game still determined something. Washington and Dallas, nobody was going anywhere. Pittsburgh and Cleveland. Pittsburgh wins, Jets lose, just like it happens. Pittsburgh's in. Baltimore and Cincinnati. Cincinnati's number 3 seed was not set. A Denver loss, and Cincinnati would have been a number 2 seed. Detroit and Chicago had no outcome. Jets and Buffalo game. Like I said, Jets win, Steelers, but no matter what, if Jets would have won, they were in. Atlanta and New Orleans had no, technically the New Orleans win did secure Houston into the playoffs, which I still don't know the exact how that worked, but how an NFC team losing made an AFC officially win, but that's nonetheless, I'm not going to count that one, but that they had some kind of influence on Houston winning the division. Philadelphia and the Giants, obviously no outcome on that. New England and Miami, yes, because New England would have won, they would have kept the number 1 seed. With the loss, they went to number 2. Jacksonville and Houston, obviously Houston wins, they win the division. And then Indianapolis and Tennessee, with an Indianapolis win and Houston loss, that would have put Indianapolis 11 out of the 16 games. I don't know if we've ever had that many games in Week 17 that had some kind of playoff implication on it. I don't think. And that's phenomenal. That's awesome. I know that we will hardly ever see that again, and it's not a very common thing, obviously. But I definitely got to applaud the NFL, because this year, that made Week 17 worth watching. That made Week 17 an interesting weekend. I wish that there was a way to make it happen more often. There's nothing like sitting there being able to watch Week 17 and having 11 out of the 16 games matter. I mean, reality is it's not going to probably ever happen again that we have that many teams. But I mean, how great is that though? Oh goodness. Make sure you guys check us out. You can follow me at CJ Sports 1. You can follow the 110 Nation at 110 Nation. Check out our sites, www.the110nation.com, our blog site, www.the110nationsports.com. You can check out my fan page, Mr. CJ Sports. You can check out the 110 Nation's fan page, 110 Nation Sports. Don't forget the 110 Nation Morning Show, Monday through Friday. Show kicks off at 9 o'clock a.m. Eastern Time. Don't forget, we got the 110 Nation Sports Show, Monday through Friday. Show kicks off at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Thursday, we got Racing with Big Sweat. They were supposed to come back this week, but they're going to come back next week. And last night, our Sunday night show, we have the Midwest Horsepower Hour. Great show. Loved sitting in last night. Had a bunch of great guests. Looking forward to next Sunday's episode. But make sure you guys check out the shows. Don't forget you can find us on Blog Talk Radio, Stitcher, SoundCloud, Spreaker, iTunes, and of course on the I-95 Sports Network. Got to be thankful for those guys as well for allowing us to be on their network. I think we're gonna wrap things up for tonight or for today. Make sure you guys tune back in 9 o'clock tomorrow. Got things we got to get tackled as we prepare. We got some bowl games to talk about. We got to prepare for a national title. We got playoffs to talk about, NBA to talk about. There's a lot of things we got going on tomorrow morning. Make sure you guys tune in, check us out, and looking forward to being back out of here tomorrow morning. You guys have a good day.